Welcome to Building UIL Champions Podcast, brought to you by Pocket Coach Academy. I'm your host, Cody Morris. In this podcast, we look to help coaches, coordinators, and administrators build UIL championship programs. What's going on? Welcome to this week's episode of the Building UIL Champions podcast. I'm Cody Morris, owner, founder of Pocket Coach Academy. Pardon my outfit. I just left the gym, but I wanted to share this with you on this Memorial Day holiday. So this is something that's been going through my mind, especially as a debate coach and trying to run and operate a business. And this is something that I've picked up from a lot of my business training, education, if you will, that is just a good framework to really set the standard and the tone for your team. And so I just wanted to share this with you. Probably is going to seem a lot of it's going to seem obvious, but when working together, when doing it all in a framework, a 5-star framework is what we're going to call it, you can increase the production of your team, the results of your team, and get rid of a lot of those accountability headaches that come with trying to run a classroom and or team. So you can use this in all facets of your life, but we're going to focus on using it like in the UIL academic classroom. So the 5-star framework basically goes through all of the reasons why someone would or would not do something. And the first reason is, did they know that you wanted it done? So obviously, like, this is a common complaint and or issue with teachers and or coaches, that the students say that they didn't know that it was due, or they didn't know that you needed to get that done, or that you had asked them to do it. Biggest advice that I have for this is always put it in writing, right? And get verbal commitment as well as get written acknowledgement of the assignment. Different ways that I can do this is depending on what works best for your team and what kind of the expectations are. I literally will go and write on the board, literally off to the side of my whiteboard, and that doesn't work. Write assignments. Let's try this again. I will literally go off to the side of the board and write assignments. And then I will write names. And put the assignment, the task that they have for the week, the day, depending on when it's done. We're going to come back to that. But I will put it in writing in front of the entire classroom. So there's really no questions that they needed to get something done, that they had something to do. And so to avoid that type of lack of accountability or roadblock in terms of production for your team, you're going to want to put something in writing. It can be a post in Google Classroom. You can run a Google Sheet. It's really wherever you want to place your expectations on the team and or your program. Now, obviously, some people, like if you're running an accounting team and don't have a class that you see them every day, if you have a debate period, this is a lot easier. This is what I use for me. Google Sheets work just as well. Google Classroom, anything that is a shared space that you can post writing, and then if they don't see it, they know that they're supposed to look for it. And that can be listed in the syllabus. That can be listed in the agreement you have your team sign before the beginning of the year. But you want to put it in writing so that they know that you wanted it done. That eliminates them saying that they did something else, right? Even those students that are hardworking, if we only verbally communicate, or we communicate to our captains and they communicate to the team, then you end up with the telephone game where the final message doesn't match the end result that you were hoping for. So put it in writing, spell it out exactly what you want. And that's the second one. So, but to avoid students saying that they didn't know that you needed something done, or that there was something to do, or that there was an assignment, always put it in writing, whether it's on the board, in a Google Classroom, Google Sheet, email, something that says that there is something to do. So that's the first thing. Okay. This will help enforce accountability, and we'll get all the way to the end and you'll understand why these first 4 pillars of the STAR are super crucial in avoiding the last one that is really gray. So once you establish that there is something to do, now you need to establish what exactly there is to do. Okay, so they see that there is their name. Billy sees there's an assignment there. What is the assignment? Okay. A lot of times we'll tell them, vague things like you need to write blocks, or you need to give practice speeches, or you need to scrape articles for extemp, or you need to practice the region accounting test, whatever it is that you want to give an example. But we really don't give them the what. We tell that they need to do something. We tell them to run faster, jump higher, work harder, but we don't exactly tell them what to do to achieve that end result. So in the what framework, focus on the inputs. Give them as specific information as you can and outline it exactly what they need to be doing. So you look at the region test before you go to state and you're prepping, and you say you need to focus on these 3 concepts. So they know that there's something to do. It's in writing. What is it? Concept 1, 2, 3. Okay. Focus on those 3 by doing and solving and fixing the mistakes on the region test. Or if it's speech and debate, what are they supposed to be doing? Writing a block for the federalism dissent. And so, write that up there. That there's something to do. Billy, 1, write dissent block. Now, I'm not going to try and spell or write out federalism right now, but you want to use as specific language as you can so that there's no confusion and or escape route for students and their desire to miss accountability and to not be held accountable. So clearly communicate that there's something in writing, no excuses, clearly express what it is, write the federalism block, or fix these 3 questions that you got wrong on the region test. Find the answers. Okay, so once you've expressed that there's something and specifically what it is that the outcome that you desire to get from the assignment, then you need to express how to do it. Now, obviously, this is where we spend a lot of our time as teachers in the how and teaching them how to write a dissent block, how to do things. And, this is why there are some kind of prerequisites to being on the team or getting to this level, right? Obviously, we need to bring things down to the appropriate level of the student, right? If we just tell a freshman in September to write a dissent block, they're probably not going to know how to do it at all because you haven't taught them. They know that there's something to do. They know what it is, but they have no idea how. So, but if you told them and you scaled it down a little bit, you told them, go find a piece of evidence saying that federalism is good. I want you to research and find a piece of evidence saying that federalism is a good thing for the United States. And so now we can assign them something that is appropriate. They know how to Google. They can go search that up. They can go find, hopefully they, have enough background knowledge to understand how to complete that simple task. But appropriate tasks to the individual will eliminate a lot of the how issues. And then obviously, that's our job, to teach and train how to do more elevated tasks. And the higher up students are in the skill and or intelligence level, the less specific you have to get and the more complex you can get in terms of the assignment, right? You should be able to tell a senior, hey, you need to write dissent blocks. And you don't actually have to go specify out all the core dissents for the topic. They'll be able to go find that information and bring you back something that's pretty close to complete, or they should be able to. Whereas a sophomore, you might have taught them how to write a dissent block, but they don't really understand how to find what dissent blocks. So you may need to be more specific there. So the higher up the students are in terms of skill and knowledge, the easier it will be to give them direction in theory, right? So understanding how to do it comes in scaling up and down the specifics of the instructions so that it's appropriate for their level, right? And this is one of the common issues that we have with speech and debate is we have 7 different events, just UIL, right? 7 different events, and we have people that are in, potentially 4 different levels of skill, seniors, juniors, sophomores, freshmen, and we know that there's even variance in the spectrum between those students. And so the how a lot of times gets wrapped in is that we give an assignment that says write dissent blocks and be like, well, our freshmen don't know how to do that. But you can scale that down for Susie and say, go find me 3 pieces of evidence talking about how federalism is good for democracy or something specific. And they can go and search, and they're working on a smaller piece of the federalism dissent block, and they're being productive and they're gaining the knowledge. And so then once obviously the building process, once they find that evidence, then you can move on to the next task of like, okay, I want to teach you how to take that evidence and turn it into a formatted card. Okay, then that card is specific to this job or tool in a disad block, and you can build from there, right? And you can also leverage, hopefully you can leverage that in terms of like your captains. If you have a debate captain that is a really good leader and director, and they can, extrapolate what to do with that evidence and build up and hopefully, allow you to manage your time a little bit better. But once they know that is something done, that something needs to be done, it's clearly communicated, written somewhere in writing. If it's not in writing, it didn't happen. Okay, no different than in the professional world, has to be in writing. What needs to be done? You have to use a specific language as necessary, right? The more skilled you have someone, the less specific nature you can use, less specific language you can use, and then they have to understand how to do it. So it needs to be appropriate to their skill level. Okay. So then the last thing is, or the fourth thing is when. When something done. The easiest thing to do is deadlines. And I know teachers are usually actually pretty good about doing deadlines. Debate coaches, like for some reason, like we're not great about transferring that over into our after school practice or our teams because we don't want to, make it a job, if you will. But the reality is, like, we can be so much more productive and be so much more successful if we institute deadlines. So written up here, we know that Billy has something he needs to get done. He knows that something needs to get done. What it is to get done. Billy knows how to write disad blocks. And then we need a due date. Boom. Right? So now, when Billy walks in the classroom, you can see he needs to write disad blocks by 5/28. He should know how to do that because he's a senior. And Billy's our captain of the debate team, so he knows that something's done, something to get done, what it is, how to do it, and when it's due. Okay? Now, push on deadlines a lot because a lot of times kids, and this is what we'll talk about, kids will over-exaggerate / not understand how to use their time effectively. Okay? So they're going to tell you they can't get it done by 5/28. That's the common thing. So ask them or talk about, okay, well, how long do you think it would take to write a disad block? How long is it going to take you to do this job? Okay, and this is where obviously you have to know your students, how truthful and accurate their assessments will be. But how long will it take? Okay, it'll take me probably 2 hours to write a federalism disad block. Okay, so why is 72 hours, like why can't we find 2 hours inside of 72 hours to get this done? Especially when we have 50-minute class time, or we have 35 minutes in study hall for the next 4 days. Today is the 26th. That gives you 3 days. Like, why can't we find 2 hours? Right? And then have that conversation and clarify that, what, how, and when. Now, obviously, like you can push and you can try and get things done quicker. And obviously, the idea that end of day is greater than end of week. Okay, you'll be surprised at how, like, when you scrunch and minimize deadlines appropriately, respectfully, right? Like, showing respect for the student's time. But when you minimize deadlines, things get done, right? And then we go from needing a week to write one disad, to being able to write 5 disad blocks in a week. Especially if you have, your team working together and synergy becomes a thing, and the productivity of the team as a whole increases. If you have 6 CXers that are all working on different blocks that are junior seniors, you can get a lot of that prep done and then focus on the high value stuff for a greater amount of time. So that, what, how, when. The last one, and this is the one that students love, is, if I can even spell that right, I'm a math teacher, debate coach by nature, so you love my handwriting and spelling, is circumstances. And is there something that's actually preventing them from getting it done, right? Legitimate circumstances would be, oh, well, it only take me about 2 hours, but I have to go to an FFA competition in, San Antonio the next 3 days. So I'm going to be out and about and won't be able to get it done. Maybe that's a legitimate circumstance. Okay, we have, football game on Friday night. I'm in the band, like I won't get home, like we'll have to leave early, so I won't be able to get that done until Monday. Maybe that's a fair circumstance, but you want to always put this last because we all know students are going to create all of the circumstances that they can't possibly manage to get things done while they spend 40 hours a day on Instagram. They'll figure it out. There's only 24, but they'll find out how to get 40 hours on TikTok. So circumstances, obviously, like this is where you hope that you're recruiting and your accountability and building people with agency and drive and motivation can come into play, right? And at some point, the example that comes from the text talks about, like, if you ask someone to make an omelet, it only takes you 15 minutes to make an omelet, but the circumstance is that they may not have any eggs, right? Well, that's a legitimate circumstance. But now, it was Friday when I asked them to make me an omelet. It's now Monday, and I said I need the omelet by Monday, and we don't have any eggs. And your circumstance still is, why don't we have the omelet? Because we don't have any eggs. Well, the reality is then, like, we have an agency problem. Like, they didn't have the desire, motivation, drive to go get the eggs, right? Did they know that they needed eggs? What they needed to get, how to go get eggs, or when they needed eggs by? All those things begin, creating the foundation that it now becomes a personal choice of that they didn't want to do it, instead of them using the excuse of all these other things. And I say that, like, not in a way of like, I got you, but it's really easy to get students to quit looking for reasons not to do things when you remove all of the outs, right? Students will see all of the doors in the room as different ways to get out of the situation. And when you've done the pre-work of clearly communicating everything, they won't see the outs. And I don't even mean that from a negative standpoint of like everyone's trying to get out of things, but it's just a reality of the situation. Like, I know where the exits are in this room, and if there's only one exit, then I know I have to go through that door to get out of this room, right? And if I know that there's only one exit to do the work, then I know that I have to get the work done to not end up with negative consequences. If I think I can exit, sneak out the side, or jump out the window and avoid doing the work, then I might do it, right? So circumstances really come back down to the why. And this is where, as we want to recruit and build teams with talented individuals. And, this is where sometimes we go back and forth in the UI world of wanting to be, and we should be, I don't say that as a negative, we should be as inclusive and participatory as possible, but we have to hold the line on accountability. We're not helping students that can't participate, that won't have anything to their life, if we don't hold them accountable, right? Like, if you're afraid to cut a student on your team because nobody else is going to take them on their team and they're not going to have anything else in their life, then yeah, that's why you need to cut them from your team, because they don't have any productivity or value added to the rest of your team. And as heartless as that might sound, the reality is that student is taking up an astronomical proportion of your time, frustration, and being a negative detractor to the rest of the students around you. So that doesn't mean like give up on students really quickly. That just means that if this framework doesn't work and they have no agency or motivation, there are no batteries included, is the phrase they use in the business training, then you have to hold them accountable and hold the line for the rest of the team, for your sanity, for your production, for your career. And so we want to be inclusive. We want every student to have the access to the option to participate, to grow, to learn, to develop. But if students are not taking the agency and they're constantly looking for circumstances and there's no motivation, there's no reason why they want to do this, then you've got to hold the line and hold the team accountable. So I hope that this helped, or something you can take a value from this, because this is how I think about creating and moving the team forward. And this is a great framework for you to use to clarify when students need to be on and off the team as well. If students are going through this and they're constantly coming back to circumstances and no agency, and they'll never go to the store to get the eggs to make the omelet, then you're going to have to find a new chef. And so in this example, we have a responsibility to ourselves, to the other students, and to the school to build championship programs. And this is a good framework to help communicate how to do it. So if you're interested in building championship programs, go to pocketcoachacademy.com and check out our UIL championship package. I'd love to hop on a call with you and show you all the ways that we support UIL coaches and UIL programs with our resources, coaching, and mentorship. Hope you all have a great day.